Director at African Monitor, Namhla Mniki-Mangaliso, joins us now via Zoom to talk to us a little bit more about this conference. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to correct that title. I'm no longer with African Monitor. It's in the private office of the president now.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much for that correction. So, your thoughts about what's played out in the last few days at the conference?
Again, thank you so much for having me. So as co-chair of WICONA, the president launched the Women Economic Assembly last year, but actually he launched it because women in the private sector, women who are entrepreneurs, as well as the public sector, decided to come together to really devise a strategy around value chain facilitation for women-owned businesses. What that essentially means is that there's no way that businesses can have opportunities in the marketplace unless there's demand for their products and services from businesses in South Africa or from the public sector in South Africa. So we looked at the scale and we said there's 17 different industries, and in every single industry there are women there who are struggling to access those markets. And so in year 2, when we met in the last 2 days, the critical thing was to reflect what have we been able to do in 12 months. And I think one of the things that have really been exciting is the fact that actually we've gotten quite good responses from the private sector. We've been able to begin to engage with business leaders, with associations that are beginning to actually agree that we need to set gender targets for procurement in various industries. So they're coming together, the idea that the private sector, so leaders of industry, can come together with entrepreneurs and with members of the public sector and begin to say, unless our economy is gender inclusive and gender transformed, it will remain unproductive, it will remain vulnerable to shocks, and the only way we can actually build back better, as the president always says, the only way we can do that is to ensure that women are playing a center stage in ensuring that our economy grows. So it was a good 2 days.
Do you think people are starting to appreciate that it makes good business sense to involve women, that it's not a nice thing to do, a nice to have, but there's a real genuine business case for it?
No, absolutely. In fact, I'm so glad you are saying that, because I think for too long, when business leaders and other people have been thinking about women in the economy, they think about us only either as employees or as a charity case, and so CSI, as it were. And I think one of the things that we love that's happening globally right now is the understanding that actually gender transformed economies is smart economics. In other words, if you want to grow, if you want to be inclusive, if you want to be productive, you have to ensure that all of your population is participating in the economy. As we are trying to recover from the impact of COVID, but also from the impact of everything else that we've been experiencing as a nation that has led to seriously high levels of unemployment, as an example, I think the only way we can do that is to ensure that those who can provide value in our economies actually are able to participate without these barriers. So if you had been in the room for the last 2 days, you would have met 450 women, business owners, who are not just micro-level business owners, but a combination of micro, medium, and industrial level. And you would have been in no doubt that women are not a charity case and we are not being done favors to participate in the economy, but rather that many of these women are actually leaders in the spaces where they are operating in the various sectors. So it is time that we now begin to almost like spread that message wide across South Africa, to say, even if you are a woman and you've been thinking about a business, it's time to get started with it, because the only way we are going to increase the productivity and growth of our nation is making sure that all hands are on deck, as it were.
All right, so the women in the room already believe, yes, they face challenges, but they've been putting their best foot forward. What about the many women, perhaps over time, have never believed just because of the circumstances and the society's narratives?
In fact, the very first thing that women who have never believed should do and should be encouraged to do is to look at the women that are already doing the work. I'm reminded of the breakaway session that we had in the ICT sector. We had women leaders there who are entrepreneurs themselves. In other words, they actually own enterprises in the sector. And they were saying that a lot of the software that they are busy developing and the solutions that they're busy developing for companies are actually world standard and in many cases much more innovative than what is being developed elsewhere. And the thing they were saying is that we simply need to connect essentially the market to their services. And they were saying, if we are developing all of these things, all of these products, all of this software, now we just need the private sector to believe that we are developing these things and therefore they can come to us to buy and to get the solutions that they need. So if you're a woman and you've been sitting, I think, at the edges of the economy, or you have never even actively participated, to look at initiatives like the Women Economic Assembly, to begin to understand that not only are you welcome as part of that group, and not only do we see value in what you are capable of, but you can see a representation of women across every single industry who are already doing it. And so we are there to hold each other's hands to say, when you didn't have financing, where did you go? When you needed to scale your business, where did you go? There are so many examples of such resilient women that anyone else that now wants to participate should actually be taking the time to do so.
What sort of conclusions were drawn over the 2 days? What came out?
I mean, I wanted to actually just highlight a couple of things. Maybe if I have enough time, I'll focus on 2 or 3 of those things. One of the critical challenges that women across all sectors face is the idea that, or rather is the fact that opportunities in value chains in the industry are not there. So let me make an example. If you are in a particular industry, let's say infrastructure as an example, there are new opportunities every single day that are emerging in that particular space, in the value chain. But the women in the room and the women we've engaged with for the last 12 months are saying, even when those opportunities exist, we don't really have enough of a sense of what is going on in the marketplace so that we know this is an area that is going to be productive in the future, and therefore we can set up businesses in this space. So we were saying just simple market intelligence that is available. If we're serious about localizing in South Africa, we have to make sure that we've got market intelligence that's available for women, for young people, for persons with disabilities, so that we can begin to take up those opportunities. I think another one that we keep talking about is productive infrastructure, where we are saying we are asking big business, we are asking the public sector to begin to think about, if we are going to be producers in South Africa, we need beneficiation systems that exist in this country. So in wool and mohair, we need a scouring plant. And it's that kind of thing that we're beginning to talk about with industry leaders to say, if you are in agriculture, don't just talk to me about accessing my raw material, but also help us to build the infrastructure that would ensure that we essentially add value to our products, so that by the time it gets to SPAR or it gets to Pick and Pay, I can actually earn an income and even create my own wealth through that process. There's a number of other things, but I think the last message I want to maybe leave is the idea that through the collaboration, through the conversations that are taking place with industry role players. So the automotive sector came to the Women Economic Assembly, and they said that out of the 6 billion they have over 5 years, 1.2 billion is going to be earmarked for women. And that was a wonderful announcement, but we now needed to ask, what are you going to be doing with this 1.2 billion, as it were? So then we began to say, these are the initiatives that are needed. We need a dealer principal program so that we can ensure that women are not only leaders in car dealerships, but also are owners of car dealerships. And so every time we're engaging with industry leaders, We're talking not just ideas, and we're not in a talk shop. We really live with specific initiatives that each of these industries are committing to say, by the time you meet us next year, what we will have been able to do is to put the following in place. We would have been able to train and build the capacity of this many women. We would have been able to support this many businesses, as it were. And I think that's the direction South Africa is moving towards. The idea that now it's time for action. Transformation is hard, but it's made better by having committed minds coming together across all of these sectors and ensuring that we can lift this economy to the future that it needs to be in.
Thank you so much indeed for joining us and explaining to us this amazing initiative. And let's hope that it gains wings and produces those much desired results. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right, that's Namhla Mniki-Mangaliso, who's with the President's private office, speaking to us about this all-important conference that's been taking place this last few days. Stay with us, you're watching The Globe.